Are you tired of feeling overwhelmed and making costly mistakes that really derail your projects? If you're really ready, or should I say truly ready, to take your project management skills to the next level and avoid the pitfalls that plague so many new PMs, then this episode is for you. If you're new to the episode, I go by the name of ED. For all you smarter than new, intelligent folks out there, listen, that just simply means Ed. I have an 8-point framework, and these 8 points, my goal, my mission, my job today is to unpack today's title, which is entitled How to Avoid Common Beginner Mistakes in Project Management. You mind if I tell a story with you, family? You know, when I first started off in project management, it wasn't all of these resources that we have here now, and some of it really wasn't as transparent um, as we were coming up through this game of project management. And what I noticed is there were mistakes that I learned and I made, and I learned a lot from either an experienced project manager or a mentor. And some of this I just truly learned on my own. So today's episode is really going to help you kind of unpack some of the mistakes. You know, they always say, be careful where you walk, because if you're not careful where you walk, you can end up anywhere. Okay, you don't like that one. How about this? You have to understand, family, that when you have an opportunity to see the mistakes that someone has made, you have a chance not to repeat those mistakes if you follow if you move forward. All right, let's get into these 8. I really think you're going to love them. I'm doing something a little different, so let's see if this works today. So, mistake number 1, poor communication and stakeholder management. Listen, family, one of the biggest things you're going to understand, one of the biggest things you're going to know is that when you have poor communication and poor stakeholder management, you might as well kiss your project goodbye. I don't know. I kind of like that. But seriously, family, you might as well kiss your project goodbye. You might as well say, hey, you know what? Hey, guys, let's just pack it up. Let's just cancel this project. Let's just close this project out. Why are you saying this, ED? Because there's 2 components here. What I see a lot of times, and I can see when you've been in this game and you love this thing I love called project management, you have an opportunity to ask probing questions. First thing I'm gonna ask is what I'm talking about in mistake number 1. Hey, did you guys identify all the stakeholders? Yeah, we identified all the stakeholders. Are you sure? Yeah. So let me unpack that. See, family, the ability to identify stakeholders is just not, oh, I think this person needs to be on this project. It's really understanding their interests, their influence, their power. There's so many moving pieces there. So one of my recommendations, you know, I want to make sure you have actionable steps. I don't want you to come and listen to this content and you can't walk and not being able to walk away with something valuable. You know what we do. We drop value. So here we go. Actionable step. Create a stakeholder register that documents the stakeholders' roles, expectation, and communication preference. Do you know how big that is? Most project managers won't even do that. They won't document what the expectation is because you know why? It requires additional work. What do you mean, ED? What I mean is you're going to have to connect with the stakeholder. You may have to have a personal one-on-one or a group call and say, hey, John, what is your expectation for the project based on what we've seen on the charter? What are your expectations? Hey, Becky, what is your expectation? And you're documenting all of this. You know why you do that, family? Is because when it comes around and you start hearing the complaints, because you will, being able to go back to these expectations, as we know, as we discuss here, frustration comes from a lack of expectation, or I had a certain expectation and you didn't deliver, so now I'm frustrated, but I'm not communicating that I'm frustrated to you, so you don't know that you were supposed to be doing something. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm back with you. But honestly, family, you know what I'm talking about. If you've ever led a project where someone would tell you one thing and then as you're moving along in the project, you find out it was something totally different. What they agreed on at first changed, but they never circle back to communicate that change. That's why expectation is huge when you're a leading projects. Now let's get into the second component of this. First, I talked about identifying and analyzing stakeholders. Now we talking about my favorite thing, You see that book behind me. The Magnetic Project Managers. One of the biggest things in there is about communication, developing a communication plan. Listen, when you create a comprehensive communication plan that outlines, watch this family, frequencies, methods, and content of the project communications for each stakeholder group, whew, they can't tell you anything. Nothing. I mean, what can they say? Only thing they can say is, "Oh, you know what? I changed my mind. I know I said I wanted to be alerted by Teams, but I would rather have all communication via email. No problem." So here's a tip: continuously monitor and adjust communication plans based on stakeholder feedback and project needs. Message: here's a message. This is something I was just thinking of as I was going through it. We have to be careful too, family, because I know a lot of people that they get their PMP, they get their CAPM, ACP, they get all these amazing certifications, and then instead of understanding the ability to be flexible, the ability to understand when their adjustment needs to be made, sometimes is forgotten. That's a message for someone out there that is potentially trying to lead so strict and sturdy through the PMBOK, forgot to remember that the PMBOK is a reference guide that allows you to use these tools and techniques, to allow you to use some of these processes, but it also talks about the ability to adjust and to adapt based on the business need. I hope somebody picked up what I just let down. You guys got the dishes on this one. Let's move on to I should say mistake number 2. Lack of proper planning and scheduling. Now, I'm going to try to keep my cool here because sometimes I get a little frustrated because I've watched how people call project schedules project plans. See, that means I'm a little too close to this information. If you can't tell, you know I love this thing called project management. But a project management plan is not a project schedule. I repeat, a project management plan is not a project schedule. Okay, I'm back with you. Listen, family. There's 2 pieces here. You want to create a detailed project plan. Now, as we know, a project plan consists of the knowledge areas. How many knowledge areas are there? There are 10 knowledge areas. So being able to create a comprehensive project plan that outlines the dependencies, resources, timelines, and things of that nature. Also, I would also accompany with that, if it makes sense for the business, for the project, a WBS. What is a WBS? A work breakdown structure. I said I was going to do another WBS video and to kind of go more in depth. I think I'm going to do that now that I'm thinking about it. So again, you want to collaborate. You don't want to create no silo. You want to collaborate with your stakeholders when you're building out this project management plan. The second point is develop a project schedule. How can we hold somebody accountable for something if we don't put a task that is aligned with the activity they said they were going to do? So we want to ensure we're aligning resources with the task, sequencing them in a way. I'm going to be honest with you too, family. If you don't have Microsoft Project or you don't have Smart Sheets, you can use Excel. Again, it's not the best, but it works. It gets the job done. It allows you to have the task. I always tell you, you have to have various tools in the toolbox. So if you don't have some of these tools, you want to be able to leverage an Excel document. I've used it many times. I enjoy using it, but I know how to use Microsoft Project. I'm very cognizant of the importance of having a software that allows you for scheduling, because automatically the scheduling, you're doing more manual work when you're doing it in an Excel document versus a scheduling tool like a Microsoft Project and a Smart Sheets. So again, creating a Gantt chart, understanding dependencies, understanding tasks, and also understanding the critical path. There's so many people that have twisted this whole critical path thinking. I'm going to be doing a video on that as well, so remind me about that, family. Hey, family, I really want to make a quick announcement. Well, I'll just do one because I'm already about 9-10 minutes in. PMO week is coming soon. I'm hoping to start next week, Monday. What is the PMO week? The PMO week, which PMO stands for Project Management Office, I want to release my book live. I want to release it live. So I'm trying to figure out a date and what does that look like in the logistics and things like that. So the book is called The Magnetic PMO. And the reason why I'm writing this book around the PMO is because I sometimes feel that some organizations don't have PMOs, or their PMO is not structured in a way that allows that sets the project manager and the business up for success. So, I put together something, and I hope you guys enjoy the read once I make it live. But we're going to look at the dates. I know we got some holidays coming up in the next week or so, so I'm going to be trying to figure out what's going to be best. If you think I should release it earlier, let me know. Leave a comment. Let's move on. Mistake number 3: efficient resource planning and management. Hey, listen, family. I said about the iron triangle. I said, as we know, the iron triangle is a component of cost, scope, time, and quality. I said, man, you just need to throw resources on there. Why did you say that? Well, because when there's been a lot of times on projects where there weren't enough resources that were required, or you had all the resources and maybe they were distracted because your project wasn't a priority. So here's 2 pieces on this: identify and allocate project resources. Identify the human, financial, and, because sometimes we forget this, the material resources required to complete project tasks and deliverables, and allocate them effectively. Listen, here's an actionable takeaway for you, family. Develop a resource management plan that documents the roles, responsibility, and availability of project team members, as well as other resources. Here's my second point: monitor and optimize resource utilization. Like we talked about the first one, identify and allocate resource. This second point is monitor and optimize resource utilization. One of the things I always like to do here is, if I can, it depending on what the resources are looking like for your project. And this is one of those things you have to gauge on your own, but I'm going to give you an outline to help you. Meaning, if you have more, if you, let's say you have a full team, you want to see if there's anybody on that team that could cross train, or that has one of the capabilities of one of your main subject matter expert. The reason why you want to do this is because you want to have a backup in case someone goes on vacation, in case someone leaves the organization, that the project will still be able to continue to go on and continue to move forward. So I always recommend that you continuously monitor and optimize the utilization of project resources, so you can ensure that, again, that you're leading this, delivering this project accurately. And what you could do is you could use resource tracking, like, some reporting tools, to actually measure the resource utilization, productivity, as well as performance. Let's move on to mistake number 4: neglecting quality and performance management. Listen, one of the biggest things is you have to define and communicate project quality standards. When you clearly define, as well as communicate, the quality standards and metrics for the accepted criteria for project deliverables and processes, I promise you, well, I don't want to make any promises because I don't know your organization. I'll say this: you have a better shot at having success in your project where it doesn't become a mistake. So here's an actionable step for you: develop a quality management plan that really truly outlines quality objectives, standards, as well as control measures for the actual project. Here's my second point under that same mistake number 4: monitor and control project performance. Now, there's a terminology out there called EVM. My mentor, my coach, my good friend Phil, where's it at? Right there, that book right there. EVM, he wrote a book on EVM, good book. I'm trying to get him to re-release that again. But he wrote an amazing book on EVM. And what EVM is: earned value management. You don't see it used as much as I used to. It's still there. I know a lot of military use EVM a lot to predict, what the SPI, Schedule Performance Index, the CPI. You kind of get where I'm going. But what you really want to do, family, is regular monitor and control performance against established baselines metrics to identify and address any particular deviations. Mistake number 5: inadequate project documentation and knowledge management. Message, anytime I say message, this is something you want to pay attention to. This is what you want to stop doing, whatever you're doing. If you're looking at something else or you weren't paying attention to me, this is where you want to lock in. Why do you want to lock in here? You know the model. Documentation is going to be conversation. Listen, you want to maintain a comprehensive project documentation. Why do you want to do that? By maintaining accurate, complete, and up-to-date project documentation through the project lifecycle is going to help you when it's time for if someone is coming to you and say, hey, well, we didn't get this or we don't have this, and you have these things documented of when you sent out particular your project management plan, when you provided access to your schedule, because you want to ensure the team, anything that with regards to your to project management as far as leading the project, the team should be able to articulate out the same thing. Here's an actionable step for you. Establish a project documentation management system. Let me park here real quick, family. That is really key, because what you don't want to become is a bottleneck. What is a bottleneck? Meaning you're in the way. So when you create your project schedule, when you create your project management plan of the knowledge areas, you want to be able to store that in a central location where anybody can get access to it. That's part of the team. That's your stakeholders. That's your sponsor, etc. Because again, you want them to go fishing. If they say, "Hey, where are we at on the project schedule?" Hey, it's updated. At the beginning of the day, middle day, and at the end. So you pick and choose when you want to get it. It's important that you do this, family, because what you don't want to do is be that project manager that's storing documents on your laptop or desktop, whatever type of device you have, and then I know it feels good when people are coming to you like, hey, where we're at on that particular task, which is good, but you want to be able to point them to where you're getting the information. Yes, you're leading and managing that aspect of the project, but you want to ensure that they are aligned of where to go get it. So capture and share project knowledge and best practices and lessons learned to promote continuous improvement. Here's an actionable step. Conduct regular project reviews, or I call it after action reviews. I got that terminology. I think it was after action reviews there was a book I read around the military. And every time after a mission, they would do after action reviews. What are after action reviews? It's basically saying, hey, what are some of the things we could have done better? What are the things we've done right that we want to build off on that? And what are things that just went completely wrong? And again, it's terminology and wordplay. Is you figuring out basically what can make this project better if it's not already better. Mistake number 6, inadequate collaboration and feedback. Message, listen, family, this is one of the things that it just frustrates me so much, because there's so many people that, like, I've been part of projects and there's been so many amazing stakeholders on those projects, and the project manager is not opening the opportunity to create a collaborative approach. They're creating a silo approach where more or less they're saying, here's your task, go away. And it's like, no, 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 no. You want to allow that stakeholder or subject matter expert to be able to say, yeah, if they go away, to come back and work with the team. Hey, this is what I was thinking of doing. What are your guys' thoughts? When you're in that type of environment, everybody is watching each other's back so they can get the best out of each person. Here's another point under that. You want to seek feedback and input. What does that mean? Actively, and again, I know there's some people out there they're not going to be able to give you constructive feedback. But for those that do give you, constructive feedback, you want to engage them, because when you find someone like that, they stand on the right. They have a position of standing on what's right. It's not about your feelings. It's not about who you are, even if they like you. They're there to help and assist you. And it's not, they should keep it professional. However, it's important that you align yourself with someone, and hopefully you can get more than one or two people that can give you that type of feedback. Let's move on to mistake number 7. Inadequate risk management. One of the biggest things that I've seen in projects besides resources is risk. Even though risk is a more of a if then, meaning if this happens, then this will happen. And then if it gets to that point and it doesn't have a mitigated response, and it flips into an issue, now you're like, okay, what we're going to do? Well, you should already have that addressed. So I have two pieces: identify and assess project risk, and then the other piece is develop a risk response plan. Listen, you want to be able to proactively be looking for risk, asking the stakeholders for risk, and I don't care how small or big it is. You want to be able to ask these questions. What I used to do when I was leading certain types of projects that it was 20, 30, 40 people, you want to ask that question. You start the meeting with risk. You don't end the meeting. You start with risk. Hey guys, any new risk, anything we would need to be cognizant of a group. And if someone threw something out and someone tried to beat it down, I was like, nope, we're putting it on the risk register. So again, you want to have a risk register in place, as well as your issue log. And then of course, develop a risk response plan. How are you going to respond to these particular risks? Are you going to avoid it? Are you going to accept it? Are you going to transfer it to someone, or you're just going to actually mitigate the risk? Mistake number 8: conduct, and I mentioned this, regular project reviews and retrospective. More or less, more project reviews. If you're doing retrospective, you're probably doing a frame of work of Scrum. So regular project reviews are going to be important. And because of the fact, family, when you do regular project reviews, as I stated earlier, it gives you a chance to get better at wherever you are currently at. It should take you up a notch. And if there's things that are getting in your way, whether that's stakeholders, whether that's your own self, you can unpack that and find solutions. Don't get caught up in the problems, as we say here. Focus, once you identify and outline the problems, now let's focus on the actual particular solution. I have 3 closing remarks, family. I appreciate you spending time with me today. First one: poor communication and stakeholder management. Mistake number 1. Listen, family, as I stated earlier, you not only just want to identify the stakeholder, you want to understand their interests, influence, and what are their expectation and their communication needs. The second one is creating a communication plan so you can understand the frequency of what your stakeholders are looking for, even your executives of what they may be looking for. Number 2, inefficient resource planning and management. You know how I feel about this. Is sometimes I felt that resources should be on the iron triangle. But listen, having the ability to identify and allocate resources when you need them, and learning how to prioritize resources. Maybe you're borrowing resources from another project, but you don't need them right now. Have that ability to say, hey, I'm gonna release you to over there because I know you're spending a lot more time over there, and I can circle back with you when I need you to be on here more than what I already have you booked out for. And the last and final remark: inadequate project documentation and knowledge management. As we said before, documentation is always going to be conversation. So make sure that you maintain a comprehensive project documentation and share the knowledge so your team can enjoy the wealth. You know my motto, you know my slogan. I really, truly appreciate you taking time out to listen to me today. I hope there was something out of these 8 mistakes that you could take away, that you can apply starting today. I'll give you tonight to think it over, but in the morning, I hope you do something with it. Until next time, I'm out.